regular council meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Present at the meeting, council members, President Chris Vachon, Council Member Charbonneau, Council Member Curtis, Council Member Chase. Also present, Treasurer James Johnson, City Manager Jonathan Delabrie. Additional members are our interim fire chief, our police chief, our Department of Public Works. Online, we have our rec director Mike Brown and our comptroller Rebecca Tran. Did I miss anybody? So we have a lovely surprise. We have Scout Troop 880 who's here today, and they will actually lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So it's all yours. We will follow you.
Okay, so all those who are in uniform can salute. All those without a uniform, hand over heart. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, additions and deletions. President Vachon,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Charbonneau,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Curtis,
No, thanks.
Councilmember Chase,
Thank you.
Treasurer Johnson,
Thank you.
City Manager.
Thank you.
We're ready to go. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of March 18, 2024 and March 27, 2024. May I have a separate motion, please, to approve the minutes of March 18, 2024?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 18, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Comment?
Was it, I'm now getting confused, I think it was the 18th where the appointments were made, is that correct? Was that the meeting, 18th? Yeah, okay. So on that meeting, this is a minor change, I don't know if it matters, but when you guys went to vote in your rules of procedure, I don't think it went to a vote, and the minutes reflect that it was, the motion carried, and I don't think that was procedurally what happened. I think it was, a motion was made, it was seconded, there was discussion, and then the motion was pulled back, and a vote never took place.
You're right.
Okay.
The motion was, it was not voted on, and we moved it to this meeting to discuss that. And in
Correct.
fact, yeah.
And the minutes say that the motion carried, so we might want to.
Well, just, we'll fix it.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so is everybody good with us just fixing that statement? Yeah, but you're, that's correct, that's what happened. Okay, so, we have a motion to approve the minutes of March 18, 2024, friendly amendment to adjust the statement.
Yeah.
All those, I have a second, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Signature. Okay, and you'll, thank you, I'm sorry for looking over, it's okay. Okay, may I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes for March 27, 2024?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of March 27, 2024.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
I abstain, Madam Mayor, I wasn't here for that meeting.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, City Council Rules of Procedure with an anticipated vote. This item was actually, as we just said, deferred to today's regular meeting because there were some typographical and non-clear statements that were in the prior document, and those have been readdressed. And I'd like to address the city manager if you would just kind of point out some of the changes. Thank you.
So most of the changes were on the final page of public participation, and it really was to clear a couple items. One, items on the agenda that have public comment versus just the general public comment that happens for other items at the meeting. And then a reminder that if you would like to participate in that public comment portion, that you need to sign up in advance of the meeting. So just trying to clarify some of that language so that it's more clear on what is required of both council and members of the public. So
Thank you.
hopefully it addresses it. The other piece that we put in are about updates or presentations only, and that's really just to give that information to the council, and it's not really a time for discussion. It's more of a presentation only.
Thank you. That's all good. May I have,
I just had a question, was that on the website for the public? 'Cause the
It
one
was
that
in
I
the
have is
packet.
the old one.
should be up there.
It was in the packet in the attachments.
Right, I printed it off and it was the one that still had at the end of the agenda.
Correct. So the public comment portion is at the end of the agenda, the general public comment piece.
Are you keeping the clause?
Okay,
in there that
let me
says-
just get the motion going and then I'll throw it back out, okay? May I have a motion to approve the city council rules of procedure as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Beerling, would you be so kind?
Yeah, sure, no worries. Hi, I'm Jen Bierling, I'm a resident of Newport. So did you keep the clause in there that said, but before any action is taken? Because that's the part that makes it like impossible.
On number 2, so items on the agenda requiring a vote are open to public comment immediately prior to the council votes. That's items that are on the agenda specifically listed. And then items that are not on the agenda is just that general public comment at the end. And that's where it says at the end of each city council meeting, there may be an opportunity open for public comment for topics that are not on the agenda. And then at the end it says, in order to participate in this public comment portion, members must sign up before the start of the meeting utilizing a sign-up sheet on the council table.
Okay.
So trying to differentiate between the general public comment and public comment on each.
So this is what I printed off today, and that's not what I have. Do you have a
May I?
copy? Yeah. Just came right off. I printed the first 17 pages or something like that.
I just want to see what the distinction was, so, this is what happened last time. Right?
That's the one.
Yeah, I just want to see, that's what I want to see, what, I'm sorry? No, I want to see what we have versus
No,
what
that's,
Ms.
I have
Bierling
what we
has.
have, that's what mine is.
Yeah, hers is, this is different. But,
What's,
so this is the last one, for some reason, the old one that was of issue. But the one we have is the corrected one, but the big question is, was the corrected one up on the website? So we're going to check that, Ms. Gerlin, you could have this one back. You have the new one now?
Well,
I will give you mine.
No, you can have
I got it, okay, thank you. I'm reading it quickly, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
it. Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next item on the agenda, we are back to our scout troop, 8A. So, we would love if any member of the scout troop, or many members of the scout troop, would please tell us about your badge that you're trying to earn, or what your achievements, and tell us, educate us. And grab the microphone and come on up.
All right.
Speak through the main, pretend it's like
Okay.
this hollow person, everybody knows, no brains, hollow, just everything.
All right. So, I'm Evan DeGuys. I'm the senior patrol leader for Troop 880. Means I kind of lead the meetings, lead the scouts. The mayor badge that we're currently working on is citizenship in the community, which is, it's trying to get us more involved in what's happening in our surrounding area. Things like, one of the requirements is attending a city council meeting. We have to pick agencies to talk to people, like government agencies, that kind of thing. So this is gonna check off a few of those requirements, being able to talk to some of you guys. Yeah, that's pretty much.
So, do you have any questions for the president of our council? That is so sweet.
I don't.
Like what his duties are?
What, you know, what do you do as council president?
Mr. President, what do you do?
I haven't had orientation yet. So as council president, if mayor is incapacitated, not here, I kind of take over the role and responsibilities and the fear. Generally, it's just kind of trying to hear what the community is saying to us and try to represent who voted for us and who we're the voices for. So
Pretty good answer for putting you on the spot.
I'm good at that.
So would you like to put one of your fellow scouts on the spot and let them come up and talk to us?
Do we have any volunteers? I'm gonna take that as a no. Alright. So,
Jackson?
oh?
Whoa.
So what would you
You
like
tell
to
us about scouting, tell us about what's important to you about it, tell us about how we need to lower the bar.
There you go.
In scouting, to me, what is very important is to have nice leaders. And a nice meeting place. And I think we've covered both of those mostly.
So do you have nice leaders?
Yeah, I do.
And do you have a good meeting? How long have you been a scout?
I think this is gonna be my second year.
Wow, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing this with us.
You're welcome.
Greatly appreciated. Okay, next item on the agenda. Gardner Park Playground Equipment with an update by our Recreation Director, Mike Brown.
Thank you very much. Hello. So we have some exciting news. So in January, we sent out several requests for proposals, and we received 2 back. And with approval, we placed the order for the equipment from Pettinelli and Associates out of Williston. The product is manufactured by Miracle Playground, and I think the schematics are in the packets that you received. So the playground that we ordered will have a large play structure for ages 5 to 12. So that'll have 3 slides, 4 towers, bouldering walls, and several other, like 8 other climbing elements. We'll have a smaller play structure for ages 2 to 5. So now we're gonna have 2 play structures. We're gonna have 2 freestanding components, a maypole and a 10-spin. And we're also gonna have a large swing with a generation swing, toddler swings, regular arch swings. So it's very exciting. This has been like 7 years in the making. So it's like we can see the finish line. So that's gonna be hopefully delivered by early summer and installed by Public Works. We have Stone Environmental coming tomorrow to go look at the site and take the final samples of the area. And the timeline for that is to remediate the soil this spring and start to build over the summer. So we are almost ready to cross the finish line.
Thank you. Council members, any discussion or any questions for Mr. Brown, or are we
Just
good to
excited that
go?
it's going on.
Awesome. Good. Next item on the agenda is the solar eclipse event, an update from our police chief. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll keep this short and sweet. So a lot of planning's been going on in the background leading up to this event. Several meetings have taken place within probably the last month, I would say, just preparing for everything, the influx of people that are coming in. Did participate in a tabletop exercise at the hospital, kind of going over like first responders and like major incidents, stuff like that. So that kind of concern has been addressed to the best that we can at this point anyways. And all the other community stakeholders that were there as well. JPEAC had representatives there, which was pretty nice to see because there's a large event going on up there. They're expecting about 3,000 people just at JPEAC alone. So a lot of people come to the area for this in a week. The PD, Public Works, the Rec Department will all be fully staffed this day. So it's going to be an all hands on deck kind of event for us within the city. The fire department's going to try to have a crew on standby at the station with what they can for the personnel that they have. NCDD is very much involved in this as well. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes and preparing and making maps and parking and all that stuff, and they're going to be helping out facilitating the actual event that's taking place at Gardner Park, which is going to be pretty good. So NCDD has been a very important part of this. They're doing a lot of the legwork for the actual event that's going on in the city of Newport. Obviously expecting a large influx of people to Vermont, specifically in Orleans County, as we are in the path of totality. I'm sure everyone already knows that. I think this is actually covering 15 states total, Vermont being one of them. And it's really honestly going over the northern part of Vermont. So there's many events happening in the area. Newport, of course, is hosting one, but there's several throughout Orleans County. There's several in Caledonia County. There's several over in Franklin County. Everyone says, you know, we're expecting 100,000 people to come to the state of Vermont. I think that's probably a safe bet, and I think people are going to kind of disperse amongst those different area events of where they're going to go. I don't think 100,000 people are necessarily going to come to Newport. If they do, bring it on. But my point is, like, I've heard rumors of, oh, it's the Fish concert all over again. Like, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Yes, we're going to see a large number of people, and I think it's, I just think it's going to be a little more dispersed throughout the whole state. Traffic congestion obviously is a major concern. We'll have cruisers and officers at all the major intersections helping with the flow of traffic, trying to keep it continuous if we can, and obviously still responding to calls and complaints and stuff like that as they come in. So I feel confident that we're prepared to deal with that part of it. Just a couple reminders for the public, and I'm going to end up putting something up on our Facebook page and push some more information out. But don't block roadways, streets with your vehicle, and follow signs for parking, okay? NCDD is going to be putting it up on their website. We'll have it on the city website. I'll put it on our website, or our web page, Facebook page, of where these events are going to be, where you can park. Just don't pull over and block a road, please, okay? We still have ambulances, fire trucks, police cruisers that need to get to where they're going to go, not to mention the general public that might be just traveling somewhere that day. Get to your destination early, and after it's over, exit with caution and care for others, okay? It's not a demo derby race out after the event's over. Be sure to find a safe place during the actual eclipse. Pulling over in the roadway if for some reason you get caught and all of a sudden it's happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, 3 minutes and it's not gonna happen again for another 100 years, I gotta stop right here. Do not do that, please. Get well off the road, don't stop in the travel portion of the roadway. It is gonna be dark. I'll be putting viewing tips on our Facebook page as well. Pretty mostly common sense stuff, you guys probably already know it, but I'll just put them up there anyways. And lastly, it's a good opportunity to show off the city. We're gonna have a lot of people in the area, a lot of good things happening, so let's promote that. And the weather actually looks good as of right now, sunny and 50s, so should be good.
So, do you happen to know where people could buy the glasses? If there will be stores that have them, or do we not know that yet?
That is a great question, and I can find out and put that on our web
Cumberland
page.
Farms has it.
Okay.
Pick and
Okay.
shovel.
There you go, see, people already know.
Okay, so just, yeah.
Yeah,
so
I-
if
I
we
don't
could
have an
post
answer,
that,
but-
maybe we could find that out.
Okay,
So that people will know to go get the glasses and they don't go to the area and then
Right.
say, oh, well, I don't have them, and then you start to look up.
okay. I will do some digging and see what I can come up with.
And we also have, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe the shuttle bus is all set now to come from the airport. And we have a wonderful resident who's actually going to be running on that bus, doing her tour guide, to get everybody back and forth from the planes that are
Yes,
coming in.
and I would imagine being a sunny day that they're probably gonna end up flying like they said they were gonna.
Yeah, because we anticipate at least 50 planes
Yep.
so far. Maybe
Good.
more. Okay,
Anything
so,
else?
sounds good. And that, anybody else?
Just in addition, I mean, school-age kids should have sunglasses, solar glasses from the district. And also, like, read a fun fact, no, maybe not fun fact, but during totality, the amount of car crashes that happen because you don't realize your lights aren't on. So if you are traveling that time, turn your lights on.
Oh,
Rear
wow. Okay. You know, that's why he's the president. You know, he has these little tidbits of. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We're good? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I just say a word about
Oh,
what the program
You
is?
certainly may.
So we will have two primary events for the program. Bill Vinton, who is on the board of NEK Astronomy Foundation, will be here throughout, kind of giving a running narrative. And Kyle Chadburn from the band ETA will be here with a guitar and an iPod, and he'll be spinning tunes about total darkness in the park. So it really will be fun. It's kind of a Newport, you know, it's designed to be Newport culture. It's going to be fun and low-key, and come hang out with us.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is burn permit with an update by our interim fire chief.
Good evening, Madam
Good
Mayor,
evening.
council members. So it's always a challenge to follow the police chief because he's always so very professional and he does such a great job, but I'll do the best I can. So basically it's very easy in the city of Newport. The city of Newport does not issue burn permits. That being said, we do not want to go down in history as being the fire department or the city that says that you cannot have a campfire for s'mores. I would never be able to look another scalp member in the eye. So that being said, we do allow to have campfires, okay? Mostly common sense stuff. Make sure that it's kind of like, you know, we like to say nothing bigger than like a 3x3 pit, something that's contained. Make sure that you're always there attending it. Make sure that you have some kind of fire suppression, water, etc. The common sense thing is big. If it's really windy, it's really dry, you know, just use your head. If you're having a fire like that, it gets out of control and the fire department ends up responding, there is the possibility that you could get charged for it. The other part of that is if you're having a pit, if you're having a fire in a pit, and it's smoky, the neighbors complain, then we will probably get called and you will be asked to put it out. Just some common sense stuff, you know, it's getting dry, it's gonna get dry. I know the weather's calling for some not so great weather in the next couple of days, but we eventually will get to this dry. Right now, it's getting there, so just be super careful, super cautious. Again, a whole common sense thing, and hopefully you guys, everybody gets to enjoy some s'mores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are the s'mores going to be? seriously, I really want to thank you, and I want to thank our police chief and our department heads, but you're going to be out there, you're going to be, as always, putting your lives out there and watching out. So let's use common sense so that we can have them attend to who they need to attend to, and then so just bring the s'mores.
Good.
Really, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? Good, thank you very much.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, let's make sure I get all of this right. The Memphremagog Community Maritime Boat Inspection. Step
Hello
on
again.
up, please identify yourself.
Yes, Dave Converse with Memphremagog Community Maritime. So last time I was here, I asked permission to either haul the boat out by crane here at the dock or go off a landing street and have it pulled out of the water on these big bladders and so forth. Friday, the company from Green Mountain Marine from South Hero was here doing some work on the boat, and I took him over to those two spots, and with Lakeview Street, Lakeshore Drive there. That's not gonna work out. It's, there's a big tree branch hanging over, the wires are there, and it's kind of steep, and then when you come up to the brow, it levels off, so they wouldn't be that good. So the only other spot we can do this is Prouty Beach. And I took him over there also, and over near where the docks go in, well, from here, the right side of the beach, would work really well. It's very flat, and one of the guys had his wetsuit on, he walked way out, and it's good depth there. The main issue is, of course, the bike path. And we looked at it, and it's very flat to the ground, and we talked to Tom Bernier, and he said we could put some sand over the bike path to get any equipment across, and it shouldn't hurt it at all. The boat this time probably will have to be out of the water a few days. I don't know, hopefully not a week, but a few days because of the work we have to do on it. We have to pull a shaft off and have it calibrated and checked. So again, we want to do this early May, and it shouldn't interfere with any activities at the beach at that time. And then the company will come back and push the boat back in the water. But he thought it was very gradual and it would work out really well if we can do it there.
So when they do the checking, like the calibration and everything, are they there and it goes like systematically through, or is it like, hi, we'll be back tomorrow, hi, we'll be back tomorrow?
The shaft has to be pulled out. They tried to pull it out Friday, and for some reason, and they can't figure it out, we can't, it wouldn't come out. So there are divers in the water, and the visibility is about less than a foot, and they worked for 4 hours trying to get that out, and every trick they knew and they couldn't do it. So he said, instead of us coming back, it's pretty expensive to have them here. He said, as long as it's coming out of the water anyway, and if, of course they want to do it, so he said, we'll come up and we'll pull it then. And they don't think there's a problem with the shaft itself, but it's called the gimbal bearing, where it goes through the strut to, it's bound up somewhere. So out of the water they can work on it much better, but then again, we're gonna have some parts here for it ahead of time. We just don't know the timetable, you know, you never know until you get there. So if we do it early in the week, hopefully it'll be back in the water by the end of the week, or sooner. I'm hoping not more than a couple of days at the most. But the beach will work, and we'll do whatever we can to protect the bike paths.
So this is the area you really want the council to consider?
Yeah, this is like it. If we use the crane, that crane was $16,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
We sure can't have it more than a day here. You know, they might leave it for a day or two, but we'd have to pay some time just to have it sit here. And this guy, his quote was similar to that, but he said, I won't charge any more for more days, however you need it for, you know, like within a week. So that's what we need. But like the beach, well, you can always brush the sand back, and, you know, very little damage over there, if any, and we'll protect the bike path. So that's what I need the approval of tonight.
Mr. Bernier, are you comfortable with all of this? Do you have any input on this, or?
My only concern was the path, and I think he's addressed that.
when they pulled the boat out the last time down at the dock. They did quite a bit of damage to the lawn, but they were right back in here the next day. They fixed it, got grass growing back on it. We don't have a problem with it. It's a good time of the year that we're not busy down there, even if they're tied up for a week or so. It's really not gonna impact us. I think he's right. It's about the only place they're gonna be able to get that boat out of the water.
Police chief?
Works for me, I'm good with
Thumbs
it.
up.
It's a good spot.
Fire chief, thumbs up.
Okay, so then I guess we can actually, can I have a motion to approve the new location for the boat inspection as stated?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
I would just make sure that the public is notified, because with it being in May, more people will be out on the bike path as they can. So we just need to make sure that people are fully aware of what's going on.
We're all good with that? Yes.
They won't be on the path, so we can certainly give them some fencing, and they can keep the boat fenced in. They won't be right next to the path.
Okay,
There's
thank
there's
you.
plenty of room between the path and the lake to
Mhm.
get equipment in and haul it out and not bother the path. It's just crossing the path a couple of times to
Right.
get in and get out.
Right, and Mr. Bernier and you and the police chief, I'm sure, are gonna watch out for the safety issues with the fire chief, so I think we're good with that, and a simple notice if they see anything going in. So, I have a motion and a second, any further discussion by the council?
My only concern was the fencing that Tom just brought up, make sure we fence it off, so
Yeah, I think good idea.
aren't climbing up in it.
Right.
Good.
You don't need any vagrants on the boat.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
And we're not gonna
Appreciate
see you back here again, Chief.
it. I hope not.
Okay. No, thank you, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the HUD grant agreement for the grandstand project with an anticipated vote. So I'm going to just open this up to our city manager. This is actually about the city actually taking over this grant. So, city manager, it's all yours.
Sure. So I was invited to a meeting at the library 2 weeks ago with Paul Manette, Roger Carty, Jim Johnson was there as well, and we had just kind of discussed what the status of that project is. They brought me up to speed on where that that project is. There's currently 2 grants. One is a congressionally directed spending in the amount of $500,000, and that's the HUD grant agreement that we're going to be talking about today. A little bit more background, there is a second grant through the Freeman Foundation as well. I haven't quite wrapped all my hands around that piece, but I was able to get HUD on the phone last week and kind of asked, after Paul had sent me the documents and I reviewed them, that they said we didn't have a grant agreement in place, and that was kind of the first step. So this is kind of that first step in accepting the grant. In that documentation, it says that the city of Newport needs to be the recipient of this grant, or city of Newport. And so that's kind of the first step in this process, is to get that grant agreement in place. We then develop a project narrative and a scope of work, and then continue on with the project. So this is kind of that first step. The committee had said they really needed the city's assistance in, again, taking ownership of this grant and then kind of helping to manage it and facilitate it through. I did talk to Mr. Carty as well. He was on board, and it sounded like the entire committee was ready to kind of turn this project over in partnership with the city and get it moving.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Former Mayor Manette, anything you want to add, or you're good with this, or?
No, we're very pleased to have the city. We knew the city would probably have to manage the grant anyway because the funds came to the city. We feel we've done more than our part to raise the funds. I mean, we get $600,000 in just a couple of years, along with the other monies that we've raised, and we have full confidence that the city will do a good job in managing it. And we want to continue the great partnership and working with the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, may I have a motion to approve the city's taking over the HUD grant agreement management for the grandstand project?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Who's the signing?
That's fine.
Yeah. We go through everything together, so it's fine, and if there's ever,
Obviously not the
yeah.
motion.
No, we don't need the motion, only need a motion if it's not going to be done. Next item on the agenda is the midway contract for Gardner Park, the summer carnival with an anticipated vote. We have an old contract in this particular packet. The terms have been renegotiated and we are expecting an updated contract, and I'm going to turn this over to the city manager.
Sure.
About the great negotiations.
So the only change, and I did check with Mike. Mike, were you able to get another copy?
It's on the way, we don't have another copy, but they are changing, they're removing the Recreation Department and Grandstand Committee and replacing that with the City of Newport.
That's the defined sponsor, right, okay. And what about the recipient of the proceeds?
It'll just be the city of Newport.
City of Newport.
Right, there won't be any splitting anymore,
Correct.
there will be all the proceeds to the city.
Yep.
Okay, any,
And a little
Go
bit
right
of
ahead.
background, I guess. This
Sure.
was the carnival that came to Gardner Park prior to COVID. They have reached out to Mike to ask if they could come back. And so this is just, again, that carnival that you would typically see in Gardner Park.
so, may I have a motion to authorize the city manager to sign the updated contract as negotiated by the mayor and the city manager upon receipt of the contract by the city manager?
Oh, yeah, I'll move that.
I have an oh yeah motion. Do I have an oh yeah second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Madam?
Yes.
Just wanted to let you know that the grandstand committee is more than willing to help pass out the posters.
hear that.
Yeah, you did hear that, just wanted to make sure that that was passed along to you, so we're willing to help get
Great.
it around Orleans County.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Does this fall under the rent policy?
I'm glad you have policy, so
I,
No, thank you.
Mr. Manette, does it fall under the rent policy?
I have no clues if you've made
Mike would
changes to
probably
it.
know.
Yeah, I think that was passed in 2019.
2019. I don't think that this one's. Give me 1 second. Thank you for bringing this up. Looks to me like this carnival is going to be distinct, but let's see. So, do they need a special event permit? Is something we need to check, right?
I mean,
We'll watch the intro.
the last attachment is the actual application. And if I'm not mistaken, the reason it was passed is just to make sure that the fire, the police, and the public works all knew what would be expected of them, and to make sure all the bases were covered. And on the application, there was a part for each of them to sign off, much like the parade policy or something else.
Okay, so I see here the most of the terms on this are actually included in the contract, but there's no reason why we can't hold this vote for the next round if everybody's good and we can take a deep dive into just looking into this. I don't mind doing that. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good either way. I just, gets the department heads on the same page so that they know what's expected or what's happening.
Yeah. No, I'm about conformity, that's a good thing. So, so we have a motion, we have a second, it's not that we're not going to approve it, but my big question is, would you like us, I think it's a good idea, if we give me some time to go through this with the city manager, we'll review it and then we'll bring this back.
Yes, please.
So can I have a table, the motion?
So I take back my second.
Right, okay,
And I'll withdraw the motion.
okay.
But I want a chance to make it at the next meeting, because I love a carnival.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody does.
No,
Especially the fried food.
I do have a question, though, you haven't opened the floor to questions at all.
sure.
Yes, my experience with Midway operations is that they like exclusive contracts. So in other words, let's say the VFW wanted to open a popcorn booth, they're not allowed to. I think that's something to look into, whether other organizations are gonna be able to set up during that same event.
Sure, we will look at that, and the contract that we have right now is not an exclusive contract, so we will be mindful of that as well. Can I borrow this?
No, they're yours.
No. Okay. I'm sharing.
So we need a motion to table.
Yeah, we did,
I'll make a motion to table. Can't talk.
great.
April 15th.
Okay.
Yes. Table April 5th.
April 15th.
Yeah.
I have a second,
Sure, I'll second.
all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed say nay.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Ayes have it, and the motion is carried again. Okay. Next on the agenda is the designation of the official paper of record with an anticipated vote. And I am going to turn this over to our city manager.
Sure. So this was one thing that typically legislative bodies will do after their town meeting day. I brought this up to Mayor when we were meeting and going over all the appointments and kind of the check boxes that we had done, and just asked who our paper of record was. And there was some confusion about which one is it, when's the last time we've designated one. So this is where, required notices, so special meetings, if we have to post a legal ad in the paper that this is our official paper of record. It doesn't mean that we can't use other additional papers, but this would be our designated official paper.
And the city manager and I discussed it, and we talked about papers that would have those larger reach, and a paper that might be used for online versus, in print, because not everybody goes online, so you might need both. And our thought was that the Chronicle had the larger reach, and that the Newport Daily, though it was a daily paper, it didn't have as larger reach. But you want to take it from there, and then we thought about the Newport Dispatch, which is online.
Correct. So I think any paper, my only concern with the Chronicle is it's weekly, right? So if you have to get an ad in there specific to timing, you do need to wait a week, right? And so it does delay that.
But we're not prohibited from using the other paper at any point during the time. So that's the discussion for the council. What's your thought?
Are there any obligations to the paper? In other words, if we call a special meeting, do they have to?
We have to send the agenda to that paper of
Okay,
record.
so it's not more responsibility for them.
No, and they're not required to publish it, but we just have to let that paper of record know about it.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm trying to, I don't think the Chronicle is fully online, right? But the Dispatch, the Express is.
Not, the Dispatch is.
But isn't it true that the Express
The
also
Express is online.
So, for me, that would be both the fact that it's a daily and the fact that it's both online and in print would make a good case for using the Daily Express.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree as well, just, it's local and it's daily, so if we do have to throw an emergency or, special, thank you, then we can make sure it's out there.
so I'm hearing we want the daily, the Newport Daily. So if we do the Newport Daily, we just need to designate the Newport Daily, we don't need to go with an additional online, or are you comfortable with having additional online as well? It's not, there's no harms, I mean, you could, it's up to you all.
Well, it seems one source does both already. If we go
So
with
you're
Newport
good.
Daily.
Okay. You're good? Okay. Jonathan, you're good? Oh, well, let me make the motion first and then I'll throw it out there, okay? May I have a motion, please, to designate the Newport Daily Express as the official paper of record?
Make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
Both the Newport Daily and the Chronicle are online, but they can only be accessed by those who have a paid subscription, which is a challenge. They can be accessed in print if you buy the paper or if you go to the library, but you only have access to online if you pay.
Okay. Hold that thought. Any other? Yes, let's hear it from the paper.
The Newport Daily Online can be read up to 5 times before you have to buy a subscription.
Okay, so we
you
should
can go
cancel the rest of
online.
the council meeting, so we only can have.
Right. So it'll let you read it 5 times, and then it'll say you have to buy a subscription.
Okay, did you, please?
Yeah, I was just curious if either of the papers in their online version publish public notices. I've not seen that in other papers.
Yes.
You do, I know you do. Okay, yes.
Jennifer Beerling, resident Newport. So the Chronicle online is the full paper online. It's no different as it would be in print. I mean, it's page by page the same. And yes, you need to have a subscription, but I don't really think that that's much different than having to buy a paper. I mean, either way, you're gonna have to pay, right? Unless, of course, you go to the public library. But I'm curious if it's possible to designate 2 rather than 1. I agree that the Chronicle has a much larger scope, I think, than the Newport Daily Express, but on the flip side of the coin, the Daily Express does have the daily printing, which is advantageous if notice is of a tight nature. So I didn't know if you might be able to designate both, you know, and kind of get everything in your net.
So, the thought could be, and we still have our motion and we still have our second. The thought could be that we designate both papers, and the choice is, of course, up to the city manager at the time of print, right?
I think
Notice.
you would just always do 2.
Right, or do
Yeah.
both, just do both,
Yeah.
just publish both.
Except when the time wouldn't allow it because of the length.
Right, but I'm saying, but we would designate both papers so that the publication would go out to both regardless. I'm kind of coming back to my council to chat, okay. Okay, so then my next question would be, and we're gonna go down. My next question would be, would you want to designate, does the Newport Dispatch charge for online? I don't think so, right? So they're like a free online paper, right? So you would, for anybody who wants to go online, they wouldn't have to pay for a subscription for that. All right, so let's kind of talk about, what's your thought, Councilman?
I think it's great, and of course, if you're going online, it'll be under the city's website as well. So that would be a good resource.
So your thought is the Newport Daily Express
Newport Daily, we could do the Newport Dispatch.
and the Dispatch?
But it'll also be on the city's website as well.
Right. What's your thought?
I agree with.
Okay, what's your thought?
I'm just going by the agenda item.
Oh,
What's it say? Designation of
Official paper of
of
record.
record. You gonna scratch on there again?
now I'm just gonna put an S to make
Just
it
gonna
plural.
fix it for you.
I'm not, whatever my colleagues, it really doesn't matter.
Your thought?
I like the idea of having it online. I do think we should be careful of spreading it too much, then mistakes happen.
Mhm.
Not that you make a mistake on purpose, but well, it would be on purpose by accident, thank you. So yeah, I'm fine
So,
with dispatch as well.
So can we just do the friendly amendment to add the Newport dispatch to that?
Yes, sure.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, of course.
I use the Daily Express for all the election stuff, and if there's a week gap, only we publish weekly, there are deadlines in there that have to be in the paper on a certain day for the election.
That would be my other question, if we can't
I don't wanna
access
get
one.
it.
Okay, no, but
Be able to
this
miss-
is
miss
important,
deadline.
so there are issues with the deadline.
If we,
Particularly, I don't know if there would be, but to me, if there's a week, only once a week,
Mhm.
it may be a deadline coming in the middle of that week, and I can't get those off.
would there be an
So-
issue if they're both are paper records? If one prints it, the other doesn't, or one's able to print it and one's not? Would that be a conflict of some sort?
I think the key is that as long as it's, we send it out, when we send it out, then they print. So then it's on them to print. The key is we need to have the identification that we sent it out, also get it to the dispatch and post it on our website, as the council member said. So would you be more comfortable with having two?
Personally, truthfully, I'd be more comfortable with having this than the other Express, because that's the one I use for all the elections.
Okay, that's what we're trying to find
That's just
out.
my, that's your guys' choice, but that's just.
No, but that's where we're going. That's what we're trying to find out. So far, we've got the express and we've got a friendly amendment to add the dispatch.
Correct.
Good? I put an S on it, and I didn't. Good? Okay, so we have a friendly amendment to have the Newport Daily Express and the Newport Dispatch to be our official papers. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of personnel uses of city equipment, expenses, and employee benefit discussion. The city manager and the mayor, in accordance with the charges under the charter, have been actually taking a deep dive into waste, fraud, and abuse and policies needed to be put in place, and those that needed to be updated and actually allow the city to run with appropriate governance over these assets and financial health of the city. So we found some issues and we've identified them, and we're going to be addressing them, and we're going to be updating policies, rearranging policies, but we're going to walk through just some samples of what's going to be addressed. And the city manager, of course I'm gonna like you. I love that you're here. Okay, so one was, and thank you for the treasurer has helped us with all of this as well. So we're going to be establishing a liability account. You want to just talk to that a bit?
So in working with Jim, so as a municipality, we send out one bill that collects education taxes and as well as municipal taxes. And we're basically a pass-through for that money that then we have to turn that money over to the school systems. And we have 20 days to do that. So we just wanted to make sure that when we get that money, it's not getting intermingled with municipal tax rate funds. So Jim, in working with Jim, we're gonna set up a liability line in NEMRIC to basically just track that for Jim. So it's very clear in the balance sheet of this is town money, this is school money that we're not allowed to touch, because when they send us a blue form that says how much money we owe, we have to have that money in hand to be able to send them. So it's just an accounting piece just to make sure that we're accounting for that money.
and that we're all protected in the event that they ask for that money and we can prove that we have it.
And then also, we've been looking at the better allocation of car mileage expense. So some old contracts had lump sums in there. Some of those contracts are now gone. And so I'm gonna turn this over to our city manager to explain the best protocols for this.
Sure, so we were looking at travel stipends to employees and realized that there were lump sum stipends being allocated to employees and no mileage being kept track of. So really, we're just eliminating that lump sum mileage piece, and then just as employees incur expenses, they're using the federal mileage rate to keep track of that mileage and then get paid for that as a reimbursement. So that's...
Right, and they'll be approved and authorized.
Yeah, so they'll be approved, you know, if they need to do, you know, for an example, right, Jim and I both have to go post the agendas and meeting minutes. And so that's to the library, the post office, here at City Hall. So it's trips to the post office, it's trips to the bank, it's trips to meetings, and just having a daily log, and that if we do get audited, and when we do our external audit, we can pull out the expense sheets that show the mileage that employees traveled. And if it's out of the city or in great distances, getting that mileage approved before they actually
Right.
go on those trips.
Yeah, and then we need that also, like for tax purposes, they have to have the purpose on those slips. So this way that we're making sure that that process is now in place. And then we're looking at recalculations of how because of expenses and because of former contract expenses, how readjustments that need to be made regarding increases in salaries, et cetera. Do you want to speak to that a bit?
Sure. So some of these mileage expense lump sums were put into salary line items. So we're just trying to separate the salary from the expense. And so that's kind of in short terms, right, of just looking at every employee, where is their salary coming from, what line item, and then if there are expenses that were previously lumped into that salary, peeling those apart and just having them as expense line items versus a salary.
Yeah, it's a reallocation and a reclassification in the charts of accounts and how everything will be now more distinct. So you can just run a report on expenses or run a report on salaries and so on, okay? Give me 1 second. Don't lose.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, you just had your hand up first, so I was just going there.
Yeah, I'm curious, can you tell us just how long expenses were included as a salary item? That sounds more than a little bizarre to me.
Roughly 10 years is what we're figuring out.
So the amount somehow got embedded in salary on an ongoing basis?
That's correct.
How's that going to get fixed?
Adjustments will be made, and we're going to actually calculate the credits, and we're going to look at that. So don't be alarmed, okay, it's being looked at, and there will be adjustments, and there will be credits appropriately made throughout, so we need to get the exact numbers, and we're close.
Is that across the board?
Various, it's, it's over the years, you're different people, and not that they approved it, so it's not like it wasn't approved.
Correct.
So, well, the council approved it, so if
Yeah.
the council approves it, it is, but it was their choice. So right now, we're changing that, and we're going to reallocate, and we're going to look at that.
Can I speak to the city manager directly?
Well, just speak through me, he'll hear you.
And Ms. Chiarello may be able to help me out on this, but my recollection is that at some point in the past, when we were taking a close look at the budget, there was confusion about the education money because it got lumped into the budget in a way that made it look like there was more revenue coming in than what was really there. And we ended up getting confused, and then Mr. Johnson put us on the straight and narrow again, explaining that most of that was education money. So if you make this adjustment, is it going to be separated out in the budget now so that it won't look like municipal revenue any longer?
It's still going to show as municipal.
But it's gonna be revenue, but there's going to be the distinction of what the liability portion is that would be deducted out and sent over So it's still revenue
So
that comes in.
yes and no.
Yeah, it's a quasi accounting issue, but you'll be able to see the difference.
So when it comes up, can you just like, if we're
Yes.
saying,
Yes.
hold on, can you just alert us to the
Correct.
fact that part of that revenue is the education money? Because
Absolutely.
It was really.
Yeah, there will
confusing
be,
last time.
you know how we added the footnotes and we started to, there'll be more footnotes and
Okay.
those, and so the bottom line is it is still revenue, technically revenue, but it's just, it becomes,
There's an
not becomes
offsetting
our revenue after a while,
It's
it
an
gets shifted
offset of
out.
the liability.
Okay,
Yes.
so, yeah, you'll be able to see the distinction.
Okay.
Can I add?
Of course, go ahead.
So every July or August, I get a thing from the education department telling how much we owe the schools.
Yeah.
Okay, and when that comes in, part of that revenue will be put into a liability account, so we know exactly what's going to the school.
Okay.
But it's still gonna show a revenue,
Revenue.
a liability account, and they tell me how much I owe the school. You may vote a $7 million budget, but I may only have to pay the school $5, because the rest of it comes from the state.
Okay. All right.
So that's the difference.
Thank you. And as we get back to that, it'll be clearer and clearer. And so that's why we're doing this, is so we can get more of the detail and be able to answer the questions. Next one that we're looking at is a policy to be put in place for credit cards that are used by the city, with reconciliation of those credit cards to be turned over to the council so they can see the charges that are being used on the credit cards as well. Authorizations for the credit cards, containment of where it should be. I'm gonna give it to our city manager to run with it.
Sure. So again, only week 4, so trying to get a handle on everything that's makes up of Newport. So currently the city has 4 credit cards. 1 lives in the city manager's office, and then 3 in the police department. So just, and the mayor and I chatted about this morning, of just, who has access, who's a signer on each of the cards, how many cards as a city do we need? Currently it's 3 in police, but none in public works or recreation. So departments are coming to my office to ask to borrow the card. So just trying to get a handle on how the cards are used. Ideally, we would like all purchases to come from vendors that can invoice the community, right? And that's best practice. You turn that invoice over, it gets coded, and then we pay the bill afterwards. But there are some purchases, Mike, for example, has to go up to Walmart to buy some stuff for programming. Walmart's not going to invoice us, so we have to pay with a city card. So just, again, trying to get a handle on it. So how those expenses are going to be coded, who has access to the cards, are they allowed to make purchases up to a certain amount, and are they pre-authorized? So just, again, getting a handle on those processes and procedures for kind of those expenditures.
Right. Yes.
Something that got raised once before was pick and shovel, where there is an account. And that was debated, and it was Jacques Roberge who wanted to change that. He wanted an invoice and permission for everything, but that was clearly insane, because if all you need are 2 screws to go through a whole process to get permission for that.
Yep.
How did that ever get resolved, and is there still an account there? You know, Tom.
So speak through, okay. So we are going through all of those, and we're looking at the accounts, and we'll have an update on all of that. We'll have a hit list of all the accounts and everything that's going on, and once we have that all in place, we'll present it hopefully within the next 2 meetings to the council, and then the treasurer's going to help, and this way we'll have a complete list of everything with the recommendations of how they should be treated. Yes.
You asked the question about how many cards to have. Just when you consider how many cards to have, just credit advice. If you close an older card, you could lose 35% of your history and your credit score for the city if it's an older card. So if it's an older card and has like a crappy APR, just use it once in a while to keep it open and active, because that could make your score go down 35% as a city. Just credit wisdom.
Thank you. Okay. Got that?
Got it.
It's on you now, Tom.
Again, I don't plan on making any
Yeah.
changes
We're just
immediately to
gonna-
cards,
yeah,
right?
we're just
But just
going
having an understanding of who has them, who has access, who's the signer on the card, and
And then we will be changing, but we'll be bringing it before the council. They really need to see what charges are there. I need to see the reconciliations, the council needs to see the reconciliations, we need to see how often they're used, what's, you know, they just can't be, hi, I'm going shopping today, even though there's no issue with what they're buying, but it still needs to have a policy and control, it's still the finances of the city. Okay, so the next thing we have, we were looking at medical and reconciliations of medical payments and recalculations of how those might actually affect the pension.
Sure. So again, looking at, you know, some of the mileage expenses that were lumped into salaries, you know, and looking at VMers, right, because that dollar amount was added to salaries, more money was deposited into the retirement accounts based on that increased salary. So again, it's just going down that path now of, you know, we have to take a look at VMers, we need to take a look at medical reimbursements and kind of just the gamut of expenses for specific employees where this was done, just to true that up. Again, I don't think anything was done maliciously. It was approved by, you know, the council and city manager at the time, but now it's just going back and seeing that some of that probably shouldn't have been done, and how can we kind of undo or true up some of.
Right, and the key word is the true up, and
Yeah.
so we're going to look and see the amount and make any adjustments and alert, and we'll get back once we have the real numbers. Okay, next, we were discussing use of company cars that may be used for personal use, identification of vehicles that should not be used for personal trips, authorization of gas for, say, personal use or not, and we've already spoken about the approval of car mileage, so do you have anything to add to that?
Just trying to figure out, you know, who has personal vehicle, like take-home vehicles, right? You know, interim fire chief has his own take-home vehicle. You know, I'm not sure if Chief Bingham has one. He's saying yes. So Chief Bingham, I believe Tom Bernier has one as well as Department of Public Works. So just seeing, you know, where are these vehicles going? Who has access to them? And then just it is a company vehicle, right? So making sure that it is being used for city business. You know, again, gas, right? So making sure we're collecting receipts for fuel that's put into those vehicles, so that we can understand that fuel's only being put into the city vehicles and not personal vehicles. Not saying that any of that is taking place, but just again making sure. We already talked about the mileage expense. And then I think, right, if the fire chief has a meeting in Orleans, right, I think that would be grounds, or, you know, Chief Bingham as well, like if he's heading to a meeting with the state police, it makes sense for him to bring a response vehicle or a company vehicle. But if Chief has to go to hockey, right, I know you play a lot, the kids play a lot of hockey, right, in Magog, right, that probably wouldn't be an appropriate travel to take that vehicle to a hockey game, right? So
they wouldn't let me across the board.
so it's right, and so that was just an example because I was looking at Chief Bingham in the back, but just, you know, again, making sure that city vehicles are used for city business, and that we're putting the appropriate mileage on those that we anticipate a city official should be.
And please understand that this has nothing to do with improper use of anything, okay? This is just putting the controls in place so we can see where our assets are, making sure that they're used for appropriate business, and then so that we know where the assets are and who's using them appropriately. Okay. Next, we have company equipment used for possibly clearing businesses, snows, assisting other companies, that we all want to make sure that that's in our policies.
So I think same thing, that's kind of the prior one, right? Making sure that it goes back to city vehicles get used for city business, right? So I think that's really all I want to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much. The next issue we're looking at is, and we kind of touched on this when we did the budgets, we want to be sure that there's no borrowing from the various accounts to cover other accounts if there's a shortfall. So we want to be particularly sure that if there's a restrictive account, that nobody taps into those funds because those are defined for a very specific purpose. So, we will find the legal route. If there's a shortfall, we know what we need to do and we will address it. So it's not just, okay, this account has more money, let's move it here. And so no more touching of funds without going through the appropriate channels. So those controls will be put in place. It's all yours.
Yeah, and I think often, even though it's not a good practice, right, and in some cases illegal, I think a lot of municipalities in Vermont do this, right? They have grant money that they say, Kate, we're doing this grant project in 3 months, but we need the money now to pay salaries. Let's just take that money and then we'll get tax money to refill it, right? And we just want to make sure that we're not doing that Jim came to me last week and said, hey, our line of credit is getting low. We need to look at increasing that line of credit. So that's kind of the thought process, other than just taking money from, water and sewer is a big one, right? It's specifically an enterprise fund, so we can't mix that with the general fund. So just, again, keeping those accounts, whether it's grant funding or water and sewer enterprise funds or ARPA funding or whatever the funding mechanism may be, but they're kept in the accounting system in its own separate bucket. So that when and if we do get audited, we can say that money came in, that money stayed there, these were the expenses of that project, we reimbursed it. And so just, again, covering our bases to make sure that we're doing everything by the book.
Right,
in the way
and
that we
hopefully
should
get
be.
us to fewer adjusting journal
And
entries
hope-
at the end.
That and hopefully fewer grants too,
Right,
right? I mean, if
exactly.
all these grant programs say, hey, your books are phenomenal, you're using the money appropriately, why not? Let's give Newport another grant. You did phenomenal at the first one, so I think it does give us that increased probability of getting grants in the future as well.
Good. The next item I had, and this is just our first batch, okay, so we're gonna be bringing more throughout. The next one I have on here, and I'm going to let Jonathan talk to this, was use of the car wash and city maintenance facilities at the discretion of a supervisor.
Sure.
You could explain that a little better than me.
Yeah, so it's not a secret that we have union contracts, right? Here in the city, we have two unions. We have the police union and the public works union. As part of the new personnel policy, we did run that document by the unions. And it was interesting, they both kind of agreed with the city's council in that the union document kind of stands or sits above the personnel policy. But in the event that the union document doesn't cover everything, it defaults back to the personnel policy. Well, one thing that was brought up that was in neither one of these documents was this item of allowing employees to utilize the facilities as employees to maybe do a couple personal things, right? Such as if I want to bring my pickup truck over to the highway garage or the public works facility and wash my car, right? Someone's laughing, right? But it's an example of a privilege, right, and a benefit of a city employee to utilize the facilities, again, at the discretion of the supervisor and making sure that we're leaving the facility clean and that there's no issues. But that was just one that was brought to our attention by the union folks. And, in talking with some department heads, we were all on board that we think that should remain a benefit to city employees. But it was just interesting. We want to make sure that it is done appropriately and that the employees are cleaning up after themselves if they're utilizing the facility. But we thought it was an added value. I gave my example of when I was on the City of Winooski Fire Department. It was known that as a firefighter, you could take out one of the apparatus, bring in your own personal vehicle, wash it, sweep and clean the floor, and then put the apparatus back. And that was part of being on the fire department. So again, in talking to department heads, this does happen in the city of Newport, and we're all on board with it continuing to happen, again, with just some discretion of the supervisor.
Right, and within, procedures, so it's kept clean, it's not just one person coming and making a mess and the next person who
Correct.
needs to use it, but that's the supervisors who will kind of control
Yep.
that. So that was our first round of what we're looking at. We have a bunch of other areas, and when we come back for the council, we'll have numbers. Okay,
I do have-
you have questions? Yes?
Yeah, so the one pertaining to businesses.
credit card in row?
No, using city
Business accounts?
equipment, using city equipment
Right here.
around businesses.
So like company cards for personal use.
Maybe I misheard it. Oh, here it is. Use of company equipment to clear business snow or other assistance. Would that prohibit if we get like a dump of 3 feet? Would it prohibit the city from helping local businesses by using like the sidewalk plow or something like
No,
that?
so the whole point is that we want to be able to identify that this particular piece of equipment was used to assist.
Okay.
We don't want side businesses being run, right? But we want to be able to say, oh, you know what, somebody's needs some help. And so the point is, if we help one, you have to help the other. And so we need some kind of conformity here. But we don't want, you know, I've told Jonathan very specifically that he cannot run a side business and go out and, and so that's the key.
A good point, right? I think it's twofold. One,
That's right.
that if we do help a business in need, that we can say like, hey, we as a city of Newport came together, this business was struggling, and we can offer that support. I think on the other hand, we just, as the mayor just mentioned, want to make sure we're being uniform across all businesses, and that we get our city work done as well, right? If we're plowing all private businesses and we don't get the sidewalks plowed and someone slips and falls, right? So just making sure that kind of we're doing both, right?
Yeah, it's have a balance, yeah. Any
Thank you.
discussion on this or anything? And if you have thoughts, like just shoot me, Jonathan, an email, and we'll look further and come up with, because you know, you're out there more. You know, and I walked around and started to look at potholes, and we're taking pictures, and so, you know, if you see something, please just let us know so we could follow up on it. Do you have anything you want to add to this? You good? You good? Yes, sir.
Hey, maybe I'm the only one here who's confused. By the way, those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Kutsu, born and raised right here. Troublemaker, first class. Anyway, I presume that this is all about number 13. Okay.
Yes, we're there.
Just a minor English, former English teacher recommendation. Make it so that it's clear.
Okay, so
Discussion of current and past policies, perhaps.
So these are all discussions
Understood.
of all
I understand.
coming forward to
But
update
I
it.
was not clear that all of this stuff fell under this
Yeah.
interesting nomenclature.
Until I turn around and say we're on the next agenda item, which
Okay, no, that's
sometimes-
fair enough. Fair enough.
Sometimes I mess that up. But until we've announced that we've left the agenda item, we can continue to have this discussion. And what I'm hearing right now from you all, which is good, this is like good information. So we're still on that agenda item until right now.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. The next agenda item is the approved personnel policy dated 2/26/2024, and we're going to have a discussion on that. Our attorney, Marilyn Mikowski is here. Mikowski, I always say everybody's name wrong. She's online. You still here, Marilyn?
I'm coming. I'm here.
Okay.
Oops, wait. There I am. Hi, I'm here.
Okay, excellent.
Everyone.
Right. So I'm going to just, we're just having a discussion on this right now because our councilman asked for this discussion last time, and we said that we would just move it here. So if it gets into anything where we're going to require legal advice, I'm going to ask for us to go into executive session, but right now it's just a discussion. So it's all yours, Councilman.
Thank you.
Mhm.
One of the biggest complaints I've heard about this new personnel policy is that there is no, and we discussed this before, there's no grievance policy or no protection for the employee if they are to get terminated. In other words, there's no letter of reprimand or nothing to what the state would call prescriptive period of remediation. In other words, a specified time frame to correct what is perceived as a deficiency. Basically, the policy is they can be fired at will, anytime, with or without cause. And I'm sorry, I don't have the policy we approved. I just have copies of the old policy. And in the old policy, there was documentation that would be kept on an employee. So if they had screwed up or messed up in a certain thing, it's like you would sit down and talk to them and say, you screwed up on this, don't do it again, or we're giving you X amount of time to rectify this deficiency. And what I heard from several employees was there's no safeguard, they're just hanging out to dry. I mean, the first paragraph, Newport City hires at will, and you can be fired with or without cause at any time. And there's nothing in there to safeguard them or to say, look, I'll do better, or give me another chance. They're at-will employees. And I understand that from our discussions before, that there is a concern if there is an employee that's out of control, for example, and they just need to be terminated, that having this grievance process in there could complicate that. In the short time I've been with the council, we've had two employees terminated. One was a police chief, and another was a zoning, although he retired, it was not entirely voluntary. So I don't think that argument holds up, that it would make terminating an employee more difficult. I just think having it there not only encourages communication between supervisors and employees, it just gives them that added sense of security, knowing, you know, hopefully today won't be my last day, type thing. A little added security, I guess, if you will. And again, I think it was sections like 34 or 35, and it was a termination process. And from what I understand, when this policy was sent to the lawyers for review, it had the grievance process in it. And when the policy was returned and voted on, it was missing. So the people that worked on the policy, the employees that, you know, tried to update it, did not remove this grievance policy. And they were actually surprised when this new policy came back and was kind of approved right at the get-go. It did not sit well with a number of employees. So I again, why was it removed, and can it go back in? Because that was, the policy that we approved was not the one they submitted, is my understanding.
So I'm just gonna speak a little bit, but then I think we may have to go into executive session on one of the points to make sure you hear it, but I do want to, it's my understanding that the policy goes back to 2014, and it was the former city manager, Laura Dolgen, who was working with and asked questions from the department heads and the groups, and had asked for input politely. However, at the end of the day, it's always the city who makes the decision, not the employees who make the decision about what goes into a policy. You come in, you apply for a job, you like the job, et cetera, but the policy belongs to the city. Okay, but however, there is a chain of command and nobody's getting fired on, there's going to be there are protocols. But there's two things going on here. We have the union policies, which are distinct from this.
Right.
So we're only talking about the non-union at this point, okay? And so, if there's an issue, like if there's an issue to somebody who reports to the city manager would sit down and discuss that. There would be discussions and I'm sure solutions. Nobody is getting fired because they woke up and nobody liked the hat they were wearing that day. So it's not, and nobody is going to be fired without appropriate discussion of the legalities, etc. But I do want to go in, Councilman, because we do need to have the attorney explain why certain things were put in from a legal standpoint and why they weren't. But is that all right? Let's finish the discussion except for the legal.
Right.
Okay.
And this is for the non-union employees?
Correct.
Did the unionized employees have to sign this?
Yes.
They did.
Why?
At the advice of council, I did speak with Dave, at least the Public Works Union rep, and he was okay with it. With the understanding that their union contract is, takes a higher route than this.
And if there was something that was not
That was not
included
in your
their
union.
union policy, that this would also,
Did all the employees sign that?
all the employees.
So I have not, no. Because the union employees, it was sent out later at the advice of council. Union employees have till next Friday to return it. All the other employees, it was given on March 14th. And so yes, all the other employees should have submitted them.
I had heard, and I forget from who, that they were advised by their union attorney not to sign it because this policy was, I think the term this person used is richer than their contract. For example, the vacation time was 6 weeks, I think, for 20 years, and this, and the contracts, I believe it's 5 weeks for 20
So
years.
if the documents cover the same thing, the union contract is what they need to follow. So if our personnel policy would give them higher vacation, they've already negotiated their union contracts.
Right, and then this also has one more holiday than their contract. Again, I think their union lawyers will probably look at this and be in contact. But I still think, and I understand, Madam Mayor, that you said it's unlikely we would, as a city, fire somebody without speaking with them, but it's not written down in the policy.
And we're going to go into executive session to discuss that specific issue. But I'm not aware of the union. It was just the opposite from
'Cause I
the
spoke-
conversations we've had
Yeah.
with the union.
Correct.
So they were fine, actually. If they reach out, our attorneys will address it. So would you like to go in on?
Well, again, executive session would be great for educating me, but this is for the employees. So
Well-
how are we gonna convey to them that?
So this is, it's, the executive session is to educate you for the legal question. Okay, and as I said, the employees don't participate in those reasons because they are legal reasons, and But I do want you to understand and hear it from our attorneys, and you could ask those questions in executive session. It's up to you if you like to.
I don't see a need. I mean, I'm not worried that I'm gonna get fired because I'm not employed by the city. My concern is that the people that are governed by this policy, there is a certain amount of unease. And as a matter of fact, the rest of the council members received an email from an anonymous email. Did you receive it?
So I'm going to address that email.
Okay, but, I mean, that was completely separate from, you know, our previous concerns with this. And again, Mr. Vachon also expressed a concern about this grievance procedure being missing. And I know the attorneys will have justification for whatever it is, but that does nothing to alleviate the sense of unease for our affected employees.
And employees will have decisions to make based upon jobs they take, policies that are in place, personnel policies that are in place when they are hired or as they're updated and changed. But those are not responsibilities of employees to make those changes. But we do have a council member here. Do you want to go into executive session?
I was just gonna ask, I would,
Yeah.
as a new council member, I would like to have at least some conversation with the attorney.
Sure. And I think that, Marilyn, are you good if we do that? If we make a motion to go in?
Yeah, so yes, it's a two-part motion. Remember, when to go into executive session because premature public knowledge of the discussion and advice of counsel would substantially disadvantage the public body. And then the second motion is to go into executive session to receive the advice of counsel. And you would want to invite the city's attorney into that conversation.
Right.
And that's under 1 VSA 313A1F.
A1F? Or just A1? Did you go? A1, did you, I didn't hear your loss. Was it A1F?
No, those are A 313A1F.
Right, okay. So, may I have a motion to find that premature public general knowledge of the confidential attorney-client communications made for providing legal services to the city council would place the city at a substantial disadvantage because disclosure of the otherwise confidential advice and communication would harm the city by waiving the city's attorney-client privilege, 1 VSA section 313A1F, as in Frank.
Excuse me.
Who is that?
Yeah, Joseph Gresser.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gresser, could you just wait 1 second, please? May I have that motion?
So,
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Gresser?
Given that there is no legal matter in process, and what you're getting is information about the law, I do not see how this could be bad for the city if public were to know what the lawyer says about the law. There's no premature disclosure because there's nothing to be in front of. And I would suggest, although I know I'm not the lawyer, that this is improper.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for your comment. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Can I speak to this?
Okay.
I'm hesitating because I have a question about what constitutes grounds for executive session and what doesn't. So perhaps we could ask
I think
our
our
attorney
lawyers
to speak to
would
that.
speak to that when we're in executive session. If there's an issue, I'm sure we will address it. as opposed to, and I appreciate the newspaper has comments,
No, it's not-
questions, but we have an attorney here right now.
Right, I guess what I'm looking for is an explanation from the attorney about the rationale for what constitutes the reason for going into executive session.
Marilyn, do you want to address that now or in executive session? You're the attorney.
Well, I can say just very briefly that the purpose of going into executive session is to receive privileged communications with the attorney relative to a response to Mr. Charbonneau, right? So Mr. Charbonneau has raised some questions about the process for the adoption of the personnel policy. And so you're going to be receiving, privileged communications vis-a-vis that, as well as advice as to whether or not it would be advisable to change the policy in the way that Mr. Charbonneau is proposing or suggesting. So that would clearly be attorney-client privileged communications.
Thank you.
So we were in the middle of a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay. I'm gonna be aye.
I have 2 ayes and 2 nays. I vote aye. Motion is carried. May I have a motion to enter executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications with the city attorney for the purpose of providing professional legal services and advice to city attorneys. We have 2 city attorneys here into the executive session pursuant to 1 VSA section 313A1F and to also invite the city manager. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I vote aye. Ayes have it. Motion is carried and we are in executive session. So we're out of executive session. No action was taken. I do have a request because we're in such tight quarters. Because we're in such tight quarters, when you're out there, it's very loud. And so please, could you go downstairs or somewhere else to talk if it's, because we know when it gets long, you talk, and I totally get it, but we can't hear in there, so it's, okay? So be quiet, no. Okay. So if you just be so kind as to kind of move conversations, especially if there's a lot of you talking. Okay, next item on the agenda is the record retention policy discussion with an anticipated vote. And I am going to please recognize our city attorney, Brian Smith, to walk us through this policy first, and then we will move forward on whether or not we are going to approve the policy.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. We spent some time putting together this policy. We looked at some other cities of comparable size and took their policy and made it work for what we proposed might work for the city of Newport. So how the record retention schedules work, as a lot of people know, there's the Public Records Act, which requires municipalities and government agencies to retain their public records in accordance with the Secretary of State's schedules. Now, the Secretary of State promulgates these schedules, and that acts as the floor for the minimum amount of time and processes that a government agency needs to employ to retain specific types of records. Now, the Secretary of State's record retention schedule sets the floor, so the minimum amount of time and the minimum amount of process. The city can add more more time to the amount of time that it's going to retain specific records, or add more processes for review, but it has to at least meet the Secretary of State's policy, and then the city can also add its own more rigorous policy. And what we've done here is we've put together a policy which states that if it acknowledges that the Secretary of State's record schedules set the floor, and that if the record retention requirements in this policy require more of the city to hold the records, the policy would govern. And we essentially put in suggestions here for the council to consider. But for the most part, for most records, we just have that it follows the Secretary of State's floor schedule. Is there any questions here?
Go ahead. Emails. We've heard a little bit about that. What do they fall under?
Did you hear that, Attorney Smith?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Sure, the council member asked about emails, what section they would fall under.
Emails, there's so there's specific type of emails. There's a lot of them will fall under what you see as correspondence, and then there's correspondence about contracts, correspondence regarding appointments or resignations, and then most emails are going to fall under transient records, and that is the minimum requirement, or that transient records are retained until no longer required. So essentially it means once, a lot of the administrative emails like, hey, are you going to be here on time for this? Or, hey, can we set up a time to talk about this? Those will, under the Secretary of State schedules, once the meeting is held that you guys were trying to have, or administrators or employees were trying to have to talk about something, those emails would could be deleted or destroyed. And here, I'd have to find specific recommendations. But you'll see, so city additional retention requirements will, some of them will hold for a year, beyond what the Secretary of State's schedules require. Does that help at all in answering your question? I know emails are probably the most numerous, but also the most diverse in the type of records they are.
I'm still confused, but I'm probably the only one.
No, it's okay. Can you walk us through that again? The council member's not the only one. Okay, so if you could help a little bit more with the clarification on the emails and the categories.
Yep. So emails will fall under what is usually called transient records. And the Secretary of State, most emails will fall under transient records. And those are only required to be retained until superseded or no longer included. And then the city could require, all right, well, we want to hold on to them a little longer before we get rid of them. And the council could add more time under this policy in the column where it has the the schedules listed out, city additional retention requirements.
So, he froze?
No, he's reading it.
Oh, yeah, so I think if you go to the GRS 1000.1000 transitory records, and then you go to the different columns, you'll be able to find those numbers, and that'll identify the different columns under that number category. So this here would be kind of your guide to the number category.
If you go to page 4, of the draft, do you see under types of records, that column says correspondence routine? Do we see that yet?
No.
See correspondence.
So the first page that has on the chart.
Yeah, we see correspondence about contracts and substantive.
So after section 8, there's the chart, the first page that it starts, the chart.
Yeah, the only one we see on that page that says correspondence is about contracts and substantive.
There's another one 2 pages over, second one down, third one down.
And then a couple pages later, there's another one, correspondence I'm not reading that word again.
Long day. The rest is police.
Well, okay, so you're seeing, do you see correspondence routine?
No. No, it's not on our list.
Okay, I don't know. So you see correspondence regarding contracts and substantive?
Substantive matters, yes.
Okay.
And then it goes to insurance coverage docs VLCT is the next line.
I didn't miss a page.
No, it's,
Okay.
No,
Well,
I
if you
think
see
you
under,
have
if you see insurance coverage doc,
the next one.
Right.
VLCT, it should say in the location city manager files,
I think he's talking about this.
Yep.
then contracting GRS, so that's the schedule, that's the state Secretary of State schedule. So if you wanted to look up what the floor was, you could go find the Secretary of State schedule via the links above. And then applicable GRS, that also cites the specific schedule within that section. And then the minimum retention provided by that Secretary of State schedule is expired. So until those insurance documents expire, that runs the clock for 3 years. So the city has to hold that record for 3 years. And the city additional retention requirements, for this one, it just requires the city to follow once the insurance coverage policy expires plus 3 years, and then recycle the paper once it's expired and been retained for 3 years.
May I ask a question that I hope I know the answer to?
Yeah.
Can we still delete junk emails, like Comcast and all that? I don't really want to improve my service.
Those would be transient records or correspondence that until obsolete. So you guys, right now, it says until obsolete, but plus 1 year for the city retention. But you all could specify out like unsolicited junk emails from solicitors or things like that, and say that those can be deleted upon expiration.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Can I ask a hypothetical and figure out where this would fall? If I was a city employee of some kind and I sent an email to the city manager saying, I've deleted all of my emails, or I've purged all of my emails because I don't want the next mayor who's coming in to be able to see what I wrote, because she's said she's pretty transparent, and she might reveal this information that might concern a lawsuit. Where would that email fall in terms of how long I should have kept it?
I don't think I'm authorized to answer hypotheticals, because it's not really a hypothetical, what you're posing. And I do not feel comfortable. I don't think it's in the city's interest for me to answer that hypothetical.
But I think maybe we could reword that and say, if there are instructional emails, where would they fall?
I'm sorry, who's asking a question? I can't
Your
see.
mayor.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm just trying to reword it so that I think that it would fall under emails that may be given instructions. So where would emails that are given instructions fall?
So like an email asking for a task to be completed.
Right.
He's frozen again.
I think he's scrolling through that.
I think he's actually looking through the codes.
While he's looking.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So you go through this schedule and you find where the record was best fit.
Right.
You designate what type of record it is, you check this schedule, and it will tell you whether or not you need to retain it for a specific period of time, or whether or not it may be deleted.
And most of those, if I'm correct, or tell me if I'm misunderstanding this, would fall under the city manager files. So they would go into the city manager files, and then there could be discretion at looking at them to make that decision, correct? According to what, I'm looking at the locations.
In compliance with this policy, right?
Right.
It would be in the city, they would be kept in the city manager files.
So you just look at the
So is there a schedule for, I'm gonna pick on John because his phone.
Sure.
So like John Wilson's old email account, is there a schedule for how long that needs to be active within the city manager's records?
There's not really one for email accounts.
Okay.
It's for specific records. So someone would have to go through and decide whether the records have been retained for a sufficient amount of time and whether they could be destroyed in accordance with the Secretary of State's schedules and any additional requirements that the city imposes through the policy. And I'm a little concerned that your copy is not reflecting mine.
Yeah, so we.
So should we?
I know I had an issue.
We're going to move this vote-wise till the following week, but at least if you could answer or clarify any other questions, and then we'll make sure that we get the exact copy that you're talking about, and then the city manager will get it to us ahead of time, and we can validate that it's exactly what we're talking about, and we can put it on the next agenda for an actual decision, if that's all right with everybody here?
Yeah. I don't know, something, I know I got an email from Chris saying something was odd when I sent it through email and Word, so
There's a hand up, Madam Mayor.
I'm not sure if it was something through the emails that messed up with the charts or not, but I definitely want to make sure you have the full schedule in front of you, and so that you can review and see where specific records would fall, and I can answer any additional questions. The main point where the council has discretion is in the column city additional retention requirements and the location that these records will be kept. If you want specific records to be overseen by a specific department head or official, that's within the council's discretion as to where those records are kept and how, and then how long the city has to keep them. The council has discretion to increase the amount of time and process, but not any less than the Secretary of State's schedule.
We have a question, Ms. Jones.
So I have two things. Number one, it's my understanding that if city business is conducted on personal devices or whatever, or personal accounts, that these policies should still apply. Like, it doesn't matter if they're happening within the city accounts, they could be in personal accounts, and the record retention would still apply. Is that accurate?
As long as the records are created in the course of performing city business or performing a person's office, the Vermont Supreme Court has said those records are subject to the Public Records Act.
Okay, so as long as the person has them in their possession, regardless of what account they're on, if they're maintaining them and retaining them, then they're meeting the requirements of the Secretary of State, is what I understand, correct?
Correct, but now that they may not be necessarily meeting the requirements of the city of Newport. If the city of Newport adopted a policy that required, all right, all these types of records need to be kept on city servers or city. So if they had something on their personal device, they would have keep it, and the city would require them to keep it in compliance with their policy.
Right, but that's what you're looking at doing at this moment, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Or the council is,
Correct.
not me personally.
Correct. The second thing, just as a person sitting in the back row here and looking at the expression of the faces of my council people, there's a glazing over of the eyes to a certain extent with all of the details and the fine tuning of the various categories and the various requirements. And I mean, often city council people are lay people, and I just wonder if I just wonder if we're asking somewhat of a insurmountable task of these people to try to make these, decisions between which category these emails are going to fall under, and I mean, I have concerns, and is there some sort of person that we could have that designate to do this stuff or answer questions, or because if an individual council person who's just a lay person is having to make a decision, is it a transient record, is it a communication record, is it I wonder if we're asking too much.
So thank you for that, but I don't think that we need to be that concerned, because we will be going for advice. Nobody's going to start, okay, I'm making a random decision and I'm doing this until everybody's comfortable. There's going to be a process, a learning curve, or nobody's going to be deleting anything. It's going to take some time.
Okay.
So it's going to be conformity, and there will be an educational curve here.
And the policy right now kind of lays out that process already, or it provides a baseline for the council to change it if it wants. So in section 6, on an annual basis, beginning in March 2024, and every March thereafter, the city of Newport will review and dispose of any records that have been completed, closed, expired, or suspended as specified in the record retention schedule below, provided that. And if we want to make that, spell out what that process will be in this policy, we can do that. Or if they want to delegate the discretion to comply with this policy to the city manager, that's another option. But this can also, it sounds like this might require a little more discussion and contemplation.
And we will need section 6.
Oh.
6, 7.
Yeah,
6, 7, 8.
almost like we have every.
So somehow they all got like distorted,
It
so
looks
we
like
will
have
just
every
do
other
that.
page for some reason. So maybe it's, yeah.
But this was a good overview.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, this was a good overview, and so we just need to make sure we have the packets, and I'm thinking it might be best not to do them double-sided. It might be best to do each one single page for the council to go through the next time we do it, because that might be some of the problem.
And number pages.
Right, so we have the pages numbered and we go through it, okay? But just in general, do we have, I mean, I think the way it's laid out, it's going to be easy to follow once we have the codes and we see the sections. And then it's just gonna be a matter of, this is 3 years, this is 2 years, this one gets to go. And so it's not gonna be as difficult as it appears right now for the first time looking at everything. Do you have any other questions that you wanna ask our attorney before? But we will definitely put this on the next meeting. And it's okay if it takes 2 more times or 3 more times to go through it, because we are still under the guidelines of the Secretary of State. So until that point in time, that's where we are.
So, will we make a motion to table? Or-
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to table this line item until April 15th meeting.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, and I will make sure that you all have the correct version in your inboxes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is the purchasing policy discussion. So I'm going to actually recognize our city manager on this, and then we will be putting this it's just to start discussion, and then we will be getting this item on the next agenda on the 15th. So the city manager and I have been working on going through purchasing policies discussions, but the city manager's actually gone through this policy and has really worked hard to put it together, so it's all yours.
So a lot of the comments that I've already talked about tonight, credit card, personal use, will kind of all go into this policy. So Frank Cheney actually was the one that took the first draft in cooperation with the mayor. So Frank has done his first review, has now turned it over to me. I've done a review, incorporated some of these items into that policy. We have a purchasing policy, it's just kind of doing an update and a revision to that policy, so.
And
you'll see.
looking at like the specifics, like the dollar amounts that would work, how many signatures, what goes out to bid, what the process is, if there's a repetitive sole purchase, things like that. So, and the zoning administrator did work with me at the beginning, and then when Jonathan came on board, he really delved into it, so that's where we're at. You good with that? Okay. Next is comments by members of the public. However, we don't have anybody signed up unless that's a dead flower over somebody's head. Oh, okay, So if everybody is fine, I'm not going to read go into public comment. Next item is new business. President Fashawn?
Yeah, last weekend was the egg hunt in Prairie Beach. It was absolutely cold, but the kids had a lot of fun. It was a great setup again. Mike did a great job. All those involved, great job.
Did you get an egg?
No, my son took it all.
Councilmember Charbonneau?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Curtis?
Quick, I received a complaint about something at the campground this morning. Have not had time to address it, but I will be addressing it with the appropriate people this week.
Okay.
And on a lighter note, my dog and the mayor share something in common.
Can't wait to
Said on the lighter note, and it is their birthday. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you, and happy birthday to your dog.
That's it.
You know it's April Fool's, so I can tell you that my birthday is really in December, so I get 2 presents. You're not buying that one, are you? Well, you know, I'm known for
My
life.
wife is on Facebook all the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Councilmember Chase did not say the same thing. I don't want to know about your cat. I don't want to know about your dog.
I just want to let the council and mayor and folks know that I will be traveling out of the country at the next meeting and hope to join you electronically.
And where are we going?
Costa Rica.
Oh! All right, so fun.
We'll see.
Okay, Treasurer Johnson?
Yeah, I've got several things. I've got liquor license renewals for Eden Ice. One's a first-class license, one's a outside consumption permit, and one's a special event permit for the eclipse on the 8th. Those can all, I need a motion to approve all those for Eden Ice, the renewals. The outside consumption and the first-class are renewals.
Okay, do you need a separate one for the light? No.
No, just approve the ones for Eden Ice, as presented, would be good.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the Eden Ice licenses and permits for renewal as presented?
So
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any comments? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Just note my abstention, please, because I'm related to the owner of the company.
Did you
I
get that?
also-
You got that?
My abstention.
Councilman
Oh, you abstained?
Mhm.
All right, looking for my next item. Okay, I also have vendor permit requests. One from NCDC, we want to do something on the event, on April 8th, so they need, they've paid for it, the insurance policy is coming tomorrow morning, so they're in compliance with everything. So I need a motion for that one.
And they just need it for an event permit?
This is a
Okay.
special event.
Can I have a motion for NCDD to have an event permit granted?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
second.
Any comments? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
I'll abstain.
Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Okay, so I have these are all vendor permit renewals. One is for Wednesdays on the waterfront. They paid their fees, insurance policies are all here. We know what they do and where they are. So I'd like a motion for Wednesdays on the waterfront.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Comment? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
And the next one is
Ayes
for,
have it and the motion's carried.
oh, sorry. The next one is for Freddy's Barbecue, that's the smoker that was up by,
Hey.
on the east side. He's paid for his permit, photographs, insurance, everything's in order. I need a motion to approve that one.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have, don't have a second.
I'll give it to Kevin.
Okay, Kevin seconded it. Comments?
Is this the barbecue that came before the council? And are they staying in the same location?
Same location.
That's here, yeah.
So, did you hear that?
Yes.
There was a question, and the question was, remember, they came before us before, and they're staying in the same location. And okay.
He has a,
Didn't he come like 2 meetings ago? I thought we had one from Freddie. We talked
Well,
about
there's-
like 2
No,
meetings.
No, I just
This
got
is the
I
barbecue.
got this 2 weeks ago, but I haven't brought it to the.
We haven't heard it
I
here.
thought I remember hearing
Right.
it, but-
Yes.
Can I make a friendly suggestion?
Well, make your comment.
Well, I feel like you need to discuss this with the city attorneys. Because I'm worried, you know what I'm saying? I'm worried about, because they put those people have put the city on notice, and I don't know what kind of liability the city could be incurring if they're not changing the location of this. So I really think you need to confer with your attorneys.
Thank you.
You shouldn't assume, but I assume he's staying in the same location, but his permit is for the city of Newport. So he may go down to Gardner Park and have an event.
So my question is going to be, can we find out?
Oh, yeah, I can find out.
And just,
Yeah,
would that be an issue if that particular one was moved to the next?
No, they're not starting until,
So would everybody be comfortable if we move that particular permit till the next meeting so that we can clarify exactly where and see if there are any questions and find out where they're going to do it? It is the city of Newport, so if it's open, so would you be all right with that,
Absolutely.
council member?
okay,
Okay.
I'll find out now.
Okay, thank you.
So the next one, believe it or not, is for Frederick Leclerc Jr., the son, or son of the father, I don't know what it is. This is Buggy's Breakfast LLC, so he's serving breakfast. He's also got the city move, he said, there may be some movement.
Do we want to find out?
I can find out now.
Yeah, why don't we just get it so we know where it is?
So
I mean,
Freddie's and his boy are gonna do some.
mhm.
Okay, I'll find out most of this. And the last one is for Richard Lansing. He needs a permit for the 4th of July at Gardner Park. He was there last year. It's for one weekend.
So, do you want to, what's he gonna do there?
He is going to sell strawberry lemonade and cotton candy.
I'll make the motion.
Do you like strawberry?
Like to-
It's okay.
I'll second it.
I have a motion in second. Any comments?
Okay.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and
Okay.
the motion's carried.
Good, we got 3 out of 5. I'll get the next
That's
two.
pretty good.
That's good.
That's good. No, thank you. It's important that we use
That's all I-
caution on that other one, just
That's
to
all
make
I
sure.
think.
Okay. We're still on new business. City manager? Good.
Thank you.
Next item, old business. President Bashan,
No, thank you.
Councilman Charbonneau,
No, thank you.
Councilman Curtis,
No, thanks.
Councilman Effort Chase,
So thank you.
Treasurer Johnson,
Nothing?
City manager.
No, thank you.
Okay, here we go. Next item, to set the regularly scheduled council meeting for April 15, 2024. Can I have a motion to set that regular? I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. And now, the 15th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Okay.
And the motion is carried with the meeting adjourning
about it?
at,
Done it like forever.
what time is it?
I put 9:40.
Thank you, 9:45.